At a special time, 10 a.m. Eastern, the battle for a featherweight title shot heats up as two tough fighters
Huge right hand by Mendes.
push it to the limit.
Wow! Lamas.
Plus, it's a lightweight brawl when veteran heavy hitter Masvidal takes on the devastating Iaquinta.
Welcome to another edition of Bookie Beatdown, your one-stop shop for all the analysis, advice, and predictions you need to make money in the world of mixed martial arts gambling. I'm Paul Shaughnessy. And usually in this situation, I have a fun fact or something about Cody Safdie.
I don't know why.
But today, me and you wear the same shirt. Of all the days of the week for us to wear our gray Fight Network shirts, today had to be the day that we filmed this show. And then everyone's going to see this for the rest of the week.
Yeah, you know what? I've been trying to wear nicer shirts too, but then today I'm looking at
You have been dressing pretty nice, and then you kind of just showed up like a
laundry day, bro.
Like Paul Shaughnessy schlub today.
Well, I saw you schlubbing it up, and I was like, maybe he'll just zip
schlub it up every day.
Maybe he'll just zip up his sweater and I'll get away with it. But no, schlubby Paul Shaughnessy just decided to keep it open.
That's why I'm wearing the sweater at the end of the day. It's actually roasting in here. Anyway, let's get into the action. We've got UFC Fairfax going down this Saturday morning / early afternoon, obviously depending on where you are in the country or abroad or wherever you are. Either way, it's an early start for the UFC. We got Chad Mendes taking on Ricardo Lamas in the main event. Chad Mendes can be had at minus 440 with the comeback on Lamas plus 350. You got probably number 2 and 3 best guys in the featherweight division going against each other. I'm just going to throw it right out here. I'm not happy about paying minus 440 for Chad Mendes. Now, I know Chad Mendes has never lost to anybody that wasn't named Jose Aldo, and he's looked good doing it, but he had a pretty easy string up until that rematch with Aldo. Nick Lentz gave him a bit of a trouble, and he said that he had like a viral infection after that fight. Either way, Clay Guida, he ended up finishing him late in that fight, but it wasn't even a great performance by him there either. So minus 440, I just think the juice is way too much. I see small value, I suppose, on Ricardo Lamas, but I do think Mendes gets the win. It all just kind of turns into a pass for me. What about you?
I kind of feel the exact same way. For minus 440 on Chad Mendes is obviously the betting favorite here, but minus 440, I just don't know that there's enough value there. Ricardo Lamas is super durable. I mean, he's a guy that in his losses, yes, I believe Iaquinta knocked him out way back in the day, but aside from that, he's very durable. And just going the 5 rounds with Jose Aldo, he seems to be hurt the entire time, but he's one of those guys that can survive. Like you mentioned, the only time that we've really seen Chad Mendes in a bit of the thick of things, other than the Aldo fight, was obviously against Nick Lentz. And to me, that represents that maybe a fellow grappler, a guy that can grind on you, that's going to give him his most trouble. Do I think Lamas can beat Chad Mendes? No. The fact that it's 5 rounds, I think that plays better for Chad Mendes, who we know can go 5 rounds. We know both of them can go that, but if anything, we've seen Lamas really fade the longer the fight went. And in fact, I thought he lost a fight against Hacker and Diaz, who just out-grappled him. So Chad Mendes has better ways to win this fight. He could out-grapple him using his wrestling prowess, and he's better on his feet.
I don't know. Minus 440 is just too rich for my blood.
He should be the favorite. In a parallel universe where Jose Aldo was never born, Chad Mendes is the champion.
Yep.
And he seems to be much better than the rest of the competition in the featherweight division.
Except for probably Conor McGregor.
Of course, your boy, Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
But the fact is that he's already challenged for the title twice, so now he's kind of back in the pecking order. He needs to wait. He needs to fight good guys like this. It wasn't too long ago that Lamas was fighting Dennis Bermudez, and people were betting Dennis Bermudez. Like, they'd lost hope in Lamas. Lamas beats this young upstart, and now all of a sudden he's back. I don't know. The fact is, I do kind of like the dog in the situation, but to be perfectly honest, I don't really see him being Chad Mendes. Either. So I would say dog or pass because the value's not there. I just don't see it happening. So I hate to say pass right for the main event, but this is a fun fight. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, it should be a good one. We move on to the lightweight division where we've got Jorge Masvidal taking on Al Iaquinta. Jorge Masvidal, the slight favorite at minus 135 with the comeback on Iaquinta plus 115. Who do you got?
Been flip-flopping back and forth on this one for a while. Al Iaquinta, as we talk about all the time, he's making massive improvements, like massive. His striking's getting infinitely better. His confidence is getting better. His speed's good. His cardio's good. If there's one knock on him, is all 3 of his pro losses all by way of submission. And I know that George Masvidal is not necessarily a submission-type fighter. He only actually has 2 submission wins out of all his pro wins. But like we seen in that Michael Chiesa fight with, I believe it was a Darce or a Bravo choke, but a very nice setup on it. And this is a guy that's also very confident in himself. He could theoretically break Al Iaquinta down and submit him, but and like I said, I've been flip-flopping both ways. I think I'm going to go Al Iaquinta.
I think I'm going to go Masvidal, and I've actually been flip-flopping either way on this one as well.
It's a great fight, but it's tough.
And I just think it's the deeper that this fight goes, Al may find himself in trouble. He's finished his last 3 opponents, and let's be honest, besides the absolute fluke that is Rodrigo Dam knocking Masvidal out in Sengoku, Masvidal doesn't get finished. He's tough. No. Like we saw him take that the spinning boot to the face against Rustam Khabilov, and he didn't even really budge.
I remember one time he jumped up to 170 pounds and fought Paul Daly, and they ended up giving the fight to Paul Daly. Flat robbery. Yeah. George Masvidal owns him. That's 170 pounds. Paul Daly, as we know, hell of a power puncher. I don't see George Masvidal getting knocked out. He just never really seems to get knocked out. And you're right in that if he doesn't get knocked out, then the longer the fight's going to play out, you'd think it's going to play out for game-bred George Masvidal. But Iaquinta is getting so sharp recently that I don't think his corner's telling him you need to try to finish this guy. He could be content to stay on the outside and work his striking. And the only tad bit of problem that I have with George Masvidal is that he's so supremely skilled, but he doesn't seem to push the pace enough on his opponents. He's very much stands with you. I've always said this about him. He fights to the level of his opponent. If you're very good, he'll fight very good. If you're bad, he allows himself to fight bad because that's how he fights. Iaquinta's good, so it should bring the best out of him. But if he's not going for that takedown, he might get into a standout brawl with him. Iaquinta's looking extremely sharp as of late. It is a close fight, but I'm going to go Raging Al.
And just from what you just said there is that he, Masvidal fights to his competition. That almost made me just think of looking into the future. Split decision. Jorge Masvidal taking this by edging him out in round 3.
Well, that's the thing. It's
like one of those
fight.
Ones. It's so close. I'm gonna lean Masvidal. Cody's leaning Iaquinta. Neither one of us are gonna break the bank on this fight.
But for small money, and I don't know why I'm feeling this, but for small money, the line was plus 580 Masvidal by submission, and I don't know why I think that's a chance.
That's actually
but if Masvidal is going to beat him, I think that's his way to do it. I mean, he's got a good submission game despite not going for the submissions. That's why the bookie's going to underplay it. And as I pointed out with Iaquinta, not only has he lost both of his, he got submitted by Mitch Clarke and Michael Chiesa, but even before coming to the UFC, he fought Pat Otterwood, whose nickname's Awesomely Awesome, who has never won a fight in the UFC despite fighting, I believe, twice in the UFC.
And being awesomely awesome.
And he armbarred him as well. So maybe submissions is maybe his deficiency, and Masvidal could exploit that. But all in all, very close fight.
And both those previous fighters very familiar with one, Michael Chiesa, who can be had at minus 350 against Mitch Danger Zone Clarke at plus 290. I like Chiesa here. Obviously, you go back to Mitch Clarke's win over Iaquinta. He was getting dominated from the beginning of that fight until he caught him in that Bravo choke, and then it was lights out. And he looked up at his corner just like, I just pulled that off.
Because he knows as soon as he locks it in, it's before the tap happens, or the tap, he puts him out. There's not even a tap. But as soon as he puts it in, he looks at his corner like, oh my God, you know that move I get at the gym from time to time? I just got it. Exactly. I agree. I actually rewatched that fight the other day, and he was
dominating.
The way he's getting taken down, the first one, it's a caught kick and he just falls onto his back. And the second one, Iaquinta goes for a standing guillotine. And as he's pulling it, Mitch Clarke just falls to his side. That's not going to bode well for him here. Michael Chiesa's got good takedowns.
And he's got much better grappling when he gets on the
and he gets down there. Supremely aggressive. I know minus 350 could be a little bit thick for some people. And I don't generally like going for props. I mean, people that know me know I prefer to just bet the money line. But plus 140 for Chiesa inside the distance. I'm sorry, Mitch Clarke. I do like him. He's a good personality, hardworking kid. I think he's gonna get beat up bad here. I think he's gonna get stopped here, and for that reason,
you think he's gonna sub him? Because that's when we've seen Chiesa finish people.
Exactly,
submissions have been his forte.
And his last
in
couple
other
fights
ones, it's been
decision.
firefights, but he doesn't have too much power.
I agree. I agree, but I don't want to get into the problem where I'm thinking, oh, he's not going to knock him out, he's going to get a submission. Because if we've seen it in the Trinaldo fight as well, is that he gets to mount and he can just pound you from mount. The fact is that if you look at Mitch Clarke lost his UFC debut by second round TKO to John Cholish.
And then he lost to Anton Kavanin. Like he was on the outs until he beat McGuire.
Yeah, and
then Iaquinta, and then so now he's back in a good spot.
He fought for the UFC once in 2011. He fought for the UFC once in 2012. He fought for the UFC once in 2013. He fought for the UFC once in 2014. He generally takes one fight a year, and so I think people are like, "What is his last two fights?" John McGuire and Al Iaquinta. Well, where's John McGuire at? Oh, he's like 2-5 on the regional scene since being released. He's so far done. He's done. Whereas
He's
Anton
probably back to being a gypsy.
Who's the last guy that beat him? Anton Kuivanen. Oh, dude, this guy's getting blasted on the Finnish regional scene.
Yeah.
He's done. He's done. Well, where's John Cholish? Oh, he retired because he got blasted. These are not high-level guys.
No.
But he has that one win over Iaquinta. That one win is what propels him to relevancy, is what propels him for people to be like, well, this guy's not that bad. He beat a top 15 guy. Unfortunately, he got a fluke submission on him. He was getting owned in the first round, and I would be shocked if he won. But I'd be shocked if he can even last 15 minutes with Chiesa. I think he gets beat up here, but I'm not leaning towards a knockout or a submission. I just think one of them is going to happen. He's either going to get mounted and he'll get TKO'd by punches, or he'll roll over, give up his back, and get submitted, but he's getting put away here.
All right, so both of us on Chiesa here. I like Cody's inside the distance thoughts here. Plus 150, definitely worth a little bit of action right there. Coming up, we'll break down the rest of the main card of UFC Fight Night Fairfax when Bookie Beatdown returns. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, off we go to the women's bantamweight division where we have Juliana Peña taking on Milana Dudieva. Juliana Peña can be had at minus 270 with the comeback on Dudieva, plus 230. Peña's been out for over a year, that's for sure.
Year and a month.
After maybe one of the most horrific sounding injuries I have ever heard coming out of any gym ever. And that being what, she tore her ACL or PCL.
ACL,
basically
MCL,
anything with a CL at the end
and
of
a
it,
meniscus.
completely shot. And she's supposed to be out for 2 years, but I don't think it's quite been that yet.
Year and a month, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So I guess she's either rushing back or healing worked out really, really well for her. Minus 270. The biggest question is that knee going to pop back out? If she's coming back a year earlier than we thought, that doctors said initially, what's going to happen in this fight? Don't get me wrong. Dudieva looked brutal against Elizabeth Phillips, somebody who also fights out of that.
I was just going to say, Elizabeth Phillips, that's her training partner.
So, yeah, at the end of the day, she'll be able to tell her exactly what happened. Elizabeth Phillips completely was robbed in her fight against Milana Dudieva. So Peña's obviously, I would imagine, picking her ear, getting ready for this fight. So, give me Peña for sure, but I am a little bit uneasy about the injury. Obviously, a lot of the times when any of these knee injuries happen, you want to see them get back in there, use their movement, see them shoot a couple takedowns and see if they've got everything back. Because for a lot of people, they never get that full strength back in their knees. So, give me Peña, but I'm not completely in love. What about you?
Well, for minus 260, you bring up the knee injury, and that's a huge thing. Yeah. Not only did she hurt her knee, but as you mentioned, like a bad knee injury. The thing with the whole is she going to be out 2 years. I don't know that a doctor ever diagnosed that, because when the story came out, I remember Dana being like, she got assaulted by somebody in her gym. She called me crying. She said she got attacked out of nowhere. She's out for 2 years. And then it turned out it was just a training partner she trains with all of the time. He took her back like he normally does. Her knee having to pop out. She was out for a year. I think she kind of skewed that story out. So as bad as her knee was, and I'm sure it was pretty bad, I don't want to really know the full details. This just screams past me for the sole reason of you got one girl who's coming off a year absent. She has a knee injury. But let's look at her time on The Ultimate Fighter. Well, she had that big win over Shayna Baszler. Oh, man. Shayna Baszler's really fallen off the map. Well, she won the Ultimate Fighter in the finale against Jessica Rakoczy. Well, Rakoczy's 1-4 in MMA.
And is a kickboxer.
And is a boxer, actually. She's a
boxer,
pro boxer.
with
Kickboxer would be a little more versatile.
Zero ground game whatsoever.
Zero. And as I mentioned, she's 1-4-1. The no contest being because she had painkillers in her system after one of her fights. And then she's lost the other ones. Like, they're not great wins. And then if you look at her Sherdog or her, UG or her Tapology, anything with her record, she lost both of her fights prior to signing with the UFC. So this is a girl that I don't know if the sky was the limit to begin with on her. I don't know how much potential she had to begin with. She wins this fight she wins the Ultimate Fighter start against mid-level competition. Now all of a sudden she's the best. No, she's a good-looking girl. She's talented. She'll factor in the division. I don't know how good she'll be. But for minus 260, you're really assuming that she's just going to blow through Dudieva. I get that Dudieva's looked bad in her last fight, but she's more experienced. She's got the octagon jitters out of the way. Mm-hmm. She knows what to prepare for. I don't know. This is a fight that screams Peña should win, set up for Peña to win, but it also screams that for minus 260, this is bad value. For that sole reason, I gotta kind of avoid. Listen, I hate saying pass on these fights, but
right.
I would hate to tell the listeners, hey, this is a great bet. Juliana Peña's got all this hype, she's got all this prospect status. Unfortunately, maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. We don't know. So I gotta say pass.
Cody's passing. I'm taking Peña here. We move on to the featherweight division where we have Clay Guida taking on Robbie Peralta. Clay Guida can be had for minus 250 with the comeback on Peralta plus 210. Who do you got?
Go to Clay Guida here. Both guys actually just recently changed camps. Clay Guida going out to Team Alpha Male. Robbie Peralta going out to Team TriStar. You'd expect Peralta to have maybe a better game plan, but there's one thing that sticks out of my mind. I know you'll find this. Well, I mean, I don't think you'll find it interesting, but you'll have a good laugh at it. But Robbie Peralta has a third-round knockout over Esteban Payan 2 fights ago.
Yep.
And I remember watching that fight because I had Robbie Peralta, and he's easily down 2 rounds.
I don't know. That first round, I was watching that exact fight
rounds.
Today, though, and I wasn't too convinced that he was
got
down
him,
2 rounds.
I
thought round 1 was close. It was potentially Payan's, but it was very close. Round 2 was definitely Payan's.
And then round
3, he came out just guns a-blazing.
But his corner tells him, you got to knock this guy out, and he comes out and he knocks him out. Clay Guida, who's only been knocked out 1 time in his career against Chad Mendes, I don't think knocking him out is a good game plan, nor would Faraz Zahabi ever say, you need to knock him out. That's just not how they fight. Clay Guida's wrestling, and I hope he gets back to his wrestling because he's kind of gotten away from it in the last couple fights. If he implores his wrestling, and being at Team Alpha Male, you got to assume he's going to. He's a nightmare for Robbie Peralta stylistically. He can do the same thing that Esteban Payan did, not get knocked out. I think it goes all 3 rounds, but I'm actually going to go Clay the Carpenter Guida.
I'm going to lean towards Robbie Peralta here. I just think Clay Guida, we've seen the best that he's got at this point in his career. He's moved on to Alpha Male, and people may say, oh, well, he's moved on to Alpha Male. There's a lot of good training partners. Like, he was training at Jackson's earlier in his career.
Well,
like,
what's
he's
Robbie
like, it's not like
Peralta's
he's gained a higher level of training at Alpha Male. Maybe, but I'm not willing to lay minus 250 on that. That's for sure. I think there is value on Robbie Peralta at this.
He's getting ready with Chad Mendes, who's the headliner on the card, who's the guy that knocked him out. I mean, I think that exponentially is going to help him out.
Maybe.
And the fact is, you talk about, we've seen the best he has to offer.
Do you think they would have him as his main training partner though? They have a lot of guys at that gym.
Well, then great. Clay Guida's got a lot of guys to work with. Great. That's even better.
Maybe Chad Mendes has lots of guys to work with.
Well, then
maybe Clay's not getting the time in there with
You're
him.
fighting Ricardo Lamas. What better guy to train with than Clay Guida?
You think that's a great stylistic match?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good training partner considering that the guy you're fighting is a scrappy wrestler. Listen, I don't believe what you want to believe. The fact is Clay Guida is getting good training coming in here. Robbie Peralta, who's as I mentioned, he's at TriStar, he's also getting. What's his high watermark? A split decision win over Hani Jason? Is that the best Robbie's ever done? He lost to Akira Korosani? Well, that was great times.
But now the improvements that he has made in choosing a gym are way better than where he was before.
You know what? The fact is, I'm glad we disagree on it because I can't take all your picks or I'm going to lose. So this is one that I'll chalk.
Wow, that's pretty harsh.
I'll chalk this
that's
one up
pretty
for
harsh.
a win.
All right, Cody's on Clay Guida here. I'm on Peralta. Lightweight division. I saw Poirier's name. I thought featherweight, but he lost to Conor McGregor, has moved up to 155, and he's taking on Carlos Diego Ferreira. Dustin Poirier can be had at minus 185 with the comeback on Ferreira plus 160. Who you got?
Carlos Diego Ferreira. I'm actually going to bet against Dustin Poirier here. Listen, we always talk about you're not going to take the favorite in every fight. So when you look at this card, what are some of the underdogs that have a chance here? And I've never been sold on Dustin Poirier, ever. To be honest, he fights a little reckless, and I don't think he's got great punch resistance. We've seen it in some of his fights, notably the Akira Korosani fight, but also the Diego Brandao fight, where he gets hit, and he don't like him, man. He's off balance, but they rush into him. And in the fight with Conor McGregor, I know Conor was telling people I'm going to knock him out in the first round, but I said the same thing. He's going to knock him out in the first round because, unfortunately, the way he fights, he allows himself to be open to get hit. And when he gets hit, he gets wobbled. Carlos Diego Ferreira, not known for his punching, throws wild. The Randy Najem fight, it's like, wow, he really hit him square in the mouth and just completely knocked him out. And he's got a good submission game. The fact is that, yes, people are big on Dustin Poirier. They like Dustin Poirier. They've seen Dustin Poirier. They're familiar with Dustin Poirier. Him moving up to 155, I don't think bodes well here for him. I need an underdog. Carlos Diego Ferreira is my guy. I have him not only winning, I think he's going to finish Dustin Poirier.
He could, but he looked so bad in that fight against Beneil Dariush.
Dariush, and that's what people are thinking. Oh, well, he looked bad against Dariush. Dariush is good, man.
He looked very good in his last fight, that's for sure.
He's
but
good.
Ferreira just didn't come out with the same gumption, the same aggression, the same aggressiveness in his last fight.
Listen, he's a dog for a reason.
If he comes out like he did against Colton Smith and like he did against Ramsey Najim, yeah. He's going to win this fight. If he comes out like the scared puppy that he was against Beneil Dariush, then he's screwed because Dustin Poirier is going to bully him, and that's what Dustin Poirier does best.
Sure, but
so this is a toss-up. I'm going to actually lean towards Carlos Diego Ferreira. Why? Because I think this is a straight pick'em. But Carlos Diego Ferreira is not actually a big 155er either, so this is a perfect matchup for Poirier to move up to lightweight for. So both Cody and I are leaning towards Carlos Diego Ferreira plus 160 in this lightweight belt. Don't go anywhere. More Bookie Beatdown coming right up. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, we're just about out of time, but before we go, we got to give you our picks of the week. So, Cody, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, I know for minus 350, it doesn't seem like it's great value, but we're going to expand on it. Michael Chiesa, like it. Better value, inside the distance. Even better value, is Mitch Clarke going to cry after he loses? Betting yes.
I don't think anybody's going to be offering a prop on cry,
but he always cries after he loses, and after he wins.
But obviously, he's an emotional guy. Yeah, have a look out for that prop there. Chiesa, me and you, very, very high on him. I like him in this fight as well. And this is a tough main card to give you a pick of the week from. I'm going to give it based on, if there were no questions whatsoever, Juliana Peña should get the job done against Milana Dudieva. Obviously, we got Peña training at that Sick Jitsu camp in Spokane, Washington. That was where Elizabeth Phillips, who got robbed by Dudieva in her last fight. So obviously, Peña's dealing with a lot of, there's a lot of question marks surrounding her knee heading into this fight. But if she returns to form like we saw her on The Ultimate Fighter, I like her to get the job done against her. If you want to see me and Cody break down the rest of Fight Night Fairfax, you can do that by going to fightnetwork.com. It'll be posted up there with links for the rest of the card. And we have DraftKings picks, Kountermove picks, and another full slate of picks, taking every single fight on the card into account. So definitely check that out if you are watching us right here on Fight Network or on the Fantasy Sports Network for that matter. But that's all the time we have for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. So for Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown bonus edition.
Bonus. This is where the real money is.
No more commercials. And 4 more fights for us to break down. And DraftKings and Kountermove breakdowns. Lots of good times here at Bookie Beatdown. So let's get right into the action. We move on to the women's bantamweight division where we've got Liz Gorilla Carmouche taking on Lauren Murphy. Liz Carmouche, the ever so slight favorite at minus 115 with the comeback on Lauren Murphy, minus 105. I know you don't like people from Alaska, so I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm assuming that you're gonna pick Liz Carmouche here.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that, though. Lauren Murphy actually spent the entire camp at the MMA lab with John Crouch in Arizona, which is a great gym anyways. And she's actually spent a number of camps out there now, so I'm sure she's getting top line. Not Gracie Baja, Alaska, as I normally like to throw under the bus. But yes, in this fight, Liz Carmouche, I am going Liz Carmouche because of the ground game especially. One thing with Lauren Murphy is she's just very tough. That's her style. We've seen when she won the Invicta title over Miriam Nakamoto, I believe. Same thing. It's just like, wow, this girl's just very rugged. She walks through punches. She puts you up against the cage. She can throw you around. And then in her fight with Sarah McMahon, I was actually impressed. But what really struck out to me is that when she did get taken down, she had nothing off her back. She really not a whole lot. People thought that was a close fight. I didn't really. I thought Sarah McMahon beat her up. And I think Liz Carmouche does it in a very similar fashion. Liz has no quarrels about just putting you up against the cage, ripping you to the ground, trying to take your back. So you think get up, she'll just take you back down. I think this is Liz's fight to win.
So it sounds like you think that it's going to look a lot like the Liz Carmouche versus Miesha Tate fight.
Yeah, and I thought she won, to be honest with you.
I did too, and I had money on Tate, so.
Exactly. So it's one of those where you're elated, but at the same time, you're like, you know what? The next time Liz Carmouche fights, I'm gonna remember this. And likewise, the next time Miesha Tate fights, I'll remember this. Carmouche has got that ground game. And one thing I really found interesting about Lauren Murphy is when asked, how'd you even get into MMA? She goes, well, in 2010, not that long ago, 5 years, 2010, I brought my kid to a kids' jiu-jitsu class, and I had really nothing to do, so I just took one of the adult jiu-jitsu classes, and I really liked it. Now I'm fighting the UFC. Well, that's a great story. Liz Carmouche was in the Army. She has combative training. Immediately signs with Strikeforce, fights a lot of good women, is the first woman to fight in the UFC against Ronda Rousey, has been under the huge lights, has had UFC cameras in her house, has been through all of that. The jitters are gone for her. And I'm not saying the jitters are there for Lauren Murphy, but the big level competition, she's fought good girls, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely in favor of Liz Carmouche. Liz knows how to win this fight. I think she is going to win this fight. I see it going 15.
My only concern is Carmouche going to be able to hold her down? Lauren Murphy was the 145-pound champion in Invicta.
Yeah.
So she is used to feeling the strength of women that are bigger. And, Carmouche, if there was a UFC division for 125, would probably be fighting down there. Murphy's got a bit of a longer reach. Is she going to be able to avoid the takedown? That's the real question here. A lot of people thought that Murphy got robbed against Sarah McMahon.
I disagree. And
yeah,
I know
but
people thought
it's
it was
always
fight.
The classic argument
Yes.
of, somebody being on top and doing nothing versus somebody doing basically feeble nothing from the bottom, but trying to do something. So that's the question there. I'm not going to put Liz Carmouche's wrestling pedigree at the same level as a silver medalist at the Olympics, though. That's the big question
for sure.
me. So I'm not 100% sure which way to lean on this fight. Usually this would be a dog or pass, or maybe just a pass. I think it has to be a pass because it's a straight pick 'em here.
There's a lot of passes on this card.
I don't know for sure who's going to win this one.
Carmouche is my pick. I've looked at the matchup, and am I comfortable with she's just going to take her down repeatedly? Maybe not as comfortable, but yeah, for this line, it's not like it's minus 300 either way. It's not like I'm getting crazy odds either way. It's basically a pick 'em, and I'm picking Liz Carmouche.
Cody's picking Liz Carmouche. I'm going to pass on this situation. We move on to the lightweight division where we've got Gray Maynard taking on Alexander Yakovlev. Alexander Yakovlev, the favorite, at minus 125.
This is another close to even.
Against Gray Maynard, former title challenger, has had about as rough of a run as is humanly possible in the UFC, losing 4 of his last 5 fights, all of them by knockout. Or TKO.
Including 3 straight.
And then he had that split decision, which I thought he was pretty clear decision win, or unanimous it should have been, over Clay Guida a ways back there. And then you got Yakovlev. This guy needs to get on track here. Both of his fights in the UFC, kind of got thrown to the wolves against Damian Maia at 170 in his UFC debut. And Nico Masoke, just a really, really big 170-pounder. So, now moving down to 155, probably is going to suit his body type a little bit better. I've never seen him at 155 myself. Either way, at the end of the day, I do think Gray gets back on track here.
Do you?
Yakovlev, if nothing else, Gray Maynard has lost because he's been getting knocked out.
Well, that's not a good thing now, is it?
Yakovlev does not have power in his hands.
But it's all about wear and tear, Paul.
I suppose would I be shocked if Yakovlev comes out, puts a small jab on Gray Maynard's chin and Gray curls up and falls down? No, I would not be surprised. Am I gonna put a full? Am I gonna put my mortgage on Gray Maynard? No, but Gray Maynard opened up as a favorite here. Money has been moving in on Yakovlev.
Russian gangster.
And I haven't seen anything from Yakovlev in his 6 rounds of UFC action that would lead me to believe that he's going to be able to beat the former lightweight challenger. I think Gray is going to get back on track. Obviously, another very, very iffy, lots of question marks around this fight. But, give me Gray Maynard here.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you, but I do agree with you. Alexander Yakovlev, in the fights that we've seen him in, both in the UFC fights anyways, it's the grapplers that tend to get him. With Damian Maia, it's like the takedown's there for me. The passing to the mount is there for me. The Nico Musoke fight, yes, very big guy, but he was able to just physically outbeat him. Gray Maynard, very physical guy and a very good wrestler. If there's one knock on him, is that he kind of fell in love with his striking. I mean, he had Frankie Edgar essentially knocked out, and obviously that first one ended as a draw. Has him hurt in the third fight. Theoretically, it was a third fight between them. But the title rematch, once again, he has him hurt. It's just, you fall in love with your hands. You get to be like a Josh Koscheck where you're just using your hands. You just use your hands. I think that really played against Gray Maynard. We've seen him get knocked out, and we've seen that your confidence start to drop. And now all of a sudden, guys that you probably should be beating, you're not beating. That Ross Pearson fight, I had him winning the first round against Ross Pearson. And then unfortunately, he gets knocked out in the second round. You said right at the top when you were breaking down this matchup, you've not really seen anything from Yakovlev that has indicated that he's a power puncher. And for that reason, that's kind of why I'm going with Gray Maynard. He probably will get hit, but I don't think Yakovlev packs the type of power to actually hurt him. And with Yakovlev, I mean, we've always made the joke, he's a Russian rapper, and he's got that win over Paul Daly, but he just took him down the whole time. He's not going to score takedowns against Gray Maynard. I really don't think he
No.
If he was to get a takedown, I think Gray Maynard's got the type of explosiveness and the hit movement and the strength to just get back up. The real question is he going to get hit and is he going to get knocked out?
Yeah.
Gray Maynard's biggest problem here is not that he fell in love with the striking. It's not that he was jumping from gym to gym. It's not that he's getting older. It's not that his chin's gone. It's the fact that he had a newborn baby, and that really threw him off. Because all of a sudden you're a different guy. He was named the bully for a reason. He got the nickname because he used to bully his training partners. He used to smash them around. Now you see him, he's not that guy anymore. He's very family oriented. He takes his daughter to swimming lessons, and he gets very emotional when he sees, his daughter swimming in the pool. And all that doesn't bode well for the bully. He's not the bully anymore.
Wow, this is deep.
I know, and
this
listen,
is deep here.
Listen, that's real stuff, and that happens to people. That absolutely happens to people. Gray Maynard is someone that happened to. But now on 3 straight losses, now with 4 losses in your last 5, getting knocked out, I think he probably sat down and told himself, listen, 1, this is my career. I need to get back on the winning track. I don't want to get hit in the head. Okay, I'm going to implore my Michigan University wrestling pedigree. I have good wrestling. I'm going to take him down. I'm going to pound him. I've seen other guys take him down and pound him before. I can do this. I'm going Gray Maynard.
All right, we move on to the heavyweight division where we've got Shamil Abdurakhimov as a minus 265 favorite, taking on Timothy Johnson at plus 225. Who do you like?
Yeah, Shamil, actually. He first hit my radar, I think it was like 2010, and it was the ADFC title fight against Jeff Monson. And I thought Jeff Monson was just going to completely obliterate this guy, but he ended up getting, I believe, a majority decision over my boy, Jeff Monson. And then his next fight, he knocked out Sokaju, who's my boy. So right away, not that I had a dislike from him, I knew who he was because he was beating guys that I liked, but Jeff Monson, Sokaju. You know what I mean? It's not like he's beating world beaters or future world beaters, just guys that are regulated to the regional scene. But the thing is he's actually got decent kickboxing. And also, I believe he's a master in Sanda, which is like Wushu Sanda. It's very popular in like Asian culture. But he's like a master in sport in that, 4 or 5-time champion in that sport. So he has a very versatile movement. And against Timothy Johnson, who's very herky-jerky, former Division II wrestler, I think he's going to get knocked out here. So sign me up for the Russian Shamil.
I have a feeling that we may be surprised here.
Yeah, I'm not, but I'd love to hear
Timothy
this.
Johnson, 265 pounds, just a fat guy. I'm a fat guy. I like fat guys. Just going to be able to throw some hands.
Just like the Cuddly Bear,
both
because he was 265. He could throw some hands, right, Paul?
Both of these guys, let's be honest, the guys that they have fought in their career are way past their prime. So like the names that they fought, like Timothy Johnson has all of his wins by finish. So I like Timothy Johnson more on DraftKings and Countermove, which we're going to be getting into in a little bit.
I think he's getting knocked.
Because he's really, really cheap on those sites.
Yeah,
and
fair.
He has, all of his wins come by finish. He's got a win over Travis View. Exactly. The way I'm looking
Kevin
at it.
Asplund, don't forget about that
you
one.
have Shamil has a win over like Neil Groves. Like these guys are beating guys late in their career.
Yeah.
It's like Matt Dwyer when we're talking about him.
Sure.
Now, don't get us wrong. Matt Dwyer ended up killing us in terms of, his knockout or his Superman punch against one William Macario. But it's the same kind of point there. It's like, he had a win over DeMarcus Johnson. He had a win over Shoney Carter. It's just like, yeah, it's not Shoney Carter from like 10 years ago. It's like, it's Neil Grove of
43-year-old
who's just
Neil
trying to
Grove.
get like a $15,000 paycheck.
That's a lot of money.
And
Neil Grove's making that much.
I don't know if he is. Either way, you know what I'm saying. I'd like to see what Timothy Johnson by knockout. If this may come into my middling heavyweights rule, where if that number goes over plus 500, Sign me up. Timothy Johnson by KO. That's probably what I would go with.
I'm going the other way, by way of KO. Timothy Johnson, he was a wrestler. I mean, he wrestled Division II, I think, in North Dakota, and then picked up MMA kind of on the fly. So, yes, he's got those knockouts. He's a big guy, and with heavyweights, we see the knockout. But I think this guy's very similar to Josh Copeland, that if you look at him at the regional scene, he's starching guys. But when he gets to this level, he's going to be a tad bit out of shape. If you've seen a picture of him, or if you've seen video of him, I urge you to maybe go have a look at him.
No, I looked at his pictures.
He's not in great shape. And with Shamil, the one thing that I really enjoy, and once again, I urge you to go watch tape on him, is that he moves extremely fast on his feet. Yeah. Very, very fast on his feet. I think he's going to get knocked. I think he's going to knock Timothy Johnson out. But this is heavyweight fighting. We talk about it all the time.
Fights,
absolutely anything can and will happen.
And finally, we have a middleweight bout between two guys who took fights on a very, very short notice. We have Justin Lazybones Jones as a -130 favorite with the comeback on Ron, the choir boy Stallings, +110. I like Jones here.
I'm actually interested in hearing this. Why?
I like Jones here. In that fight against
Jones?
Corey Anderson, which was at 205, he took it on very, very short notice.
No, Jones versus Anderson. Who could forget?
Yeah, exactly. Jones has some, he threw some pretty decent hands in that fight.
Yeah.
He startled, the much bigger, much more athletic, and, much more fit at that point in time, Corey Anderson, a few times throughout that fight. And I think moving down to 185 here, he's probably going to have a pretty good size advantage over one Ron Stallings. So, yeah, -130, really, really close, good price here. Ron Stallings, I know people are going, oh, well, he didn't look too bad against Uriah Hall. It's like, he kind of did.
Took the fight on like a week's notice.
Took it on a week's notice, but yeah, we're dealing with two guys that took fights on short notice here. And Ron Stallings is like, you know why he didn't look that bad? Because Uriah Hall never makes anybody look all that bad in the first round, unless it's Adam Sella. But that's besides
Chris Lieben, a shell of Chris Lieben.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Chris Lieben actually made it through that round. He just quit on the stool.
He was KO'd.
No, didn't he quit on the stool? No,
yes, because he told his cornerman, I don't remember anything that happened in that last round.
And they were just like, well, this is going to be your last fight anyway. But yeah, Ron Stallings, I know it was the cut and all that other stuff, but it was just a bad game plan. He was just going up against a guy who doesn't usually come out aggressive.
Right.
And he ended up getting finished early on in that fight. Justin Jones lasted the full 3 rounds against a guy who had been, preparing for 3-4 months for that fight at a higher weight class, and I thought he came off looking pretty good. I remember having money on Corey Anderson and being somewhat nervous in like the second round that it was a hell of a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. So obviously both of these guys have full training camps at this point. I may be wrong, but I'm going to lean towards the guy with a little bit more higher upside. Obviously he doesn't have nearly as much experience at 3-1, with Stallings having a 12-7 record with 1 no contest. But yeah, give me Lazy Bones here.
This one's very iffy to me. Like I said, not only do you like Justin Jones, but I seen that you picked him fairly high in the UFC survivor pool that we got going at work. So right away, I was interested in hearing that, because my issue with him is that at 3-1, he just doesn't really have the experience. And with Ron Stallings, I realized that 12-7, not exactly the best record, but one, he's fought good guys, and being at a Team Lloyd Irvin, that's his key to success here, is the takedown. If he gets the takedown on Justin Jones, and we know it's possible to get it on him, he's got a better grappling game. I know what you mean. Jones is a good stand-up guy. He is. If you look at his backstory, that's basically all he knows. He started kickboxing at a local church when he was in his senior year of high school. He's a striker by all means. He doesn't really have that much MMA experience, and I think he could get theoretically exposed by a guy that's going to take him down. Ron Stallings, it's like, okay, I took a fight on short notice to get to the UFC. I didn't necessarily have to do that, because I could be wrong on this, but I believe he beat my boy Tim Williams on the regional scene, CFFC, before even coming to the UFC. So that's a very credible win to begin with. But now you're in the UFC, you get Uriah Hall, it doesn't work out for you. That's fine. Coming to your next one, it's like, okay, I got cut in that last one. I'm not really a striker. Who am I fighting? A guy that's basically just a stand-up guy. Okay. How did he lose his last fight? He got taken down a bunch of time. Okay, that's my game plan. Lloyd Irvin, say what you want about Lloyd Irvin. One of the great minds in terms of grappling and jiu-jitsu. Brilliant, very brilliant. he's going to have a great game plan laid out for Ron Stallings. So all jokes aside, the choir boy, how's he going to win this one? He doesn't got a great record, coming off a bad performance. All that aside, this is a dangerous pick.
All right, but the one thing that you leave out in that whole breakdown there is Ron Stallings, his last fight against Uriah Hall. Why didn't he go in with that game plan? What's this guy good at? Oh, he's good at striking. Oh, what I should do is try to take him down. He wasn't able to.
It didn't last long enough. It was
wasn't
one
able
round.
to.
It was
I don't
one
even
round,
think
and
he
he got
for a shot.
And he got hit, and he got cut. And with what we know about Uriah Hall is that he moves around very laterally. He's good on his feet. Against Justin Jones, he kind of plods forward. He's kind of like a big burly guy. And this is a fight that could go either way once again. But once again, it's like, okay, I need dogs that have a good shot of winning. And I think that Ron Stallings is one of those guys that is a live dog. You back him up into the corner, he's going to come out swinging. And I think he comes out swinging long enough to shoot that double, get the takedown, and work his ground game.
Right.
So I'm actually passing this. I don't think Stallings wins out flat out, but I don't feel comfortable putting money on this.
Cody's passing. I'm going with Jones here. Off we go to DraftKings and Kountermove breakdowns. First, we're going to start, obviously, if you never played DraftKings or Kountermove before, this is not straight picks. It's based on performance. So, how many takedowns you get, reversals, significant strikes landed, yada, yada, yada. Basically, if your guy goes out there, knocks somebody out in the first round, you're going to get a lot of bonus points. And that's what you're looking for. I don't think there's actually there's not many fights on this card on paper.
There will be lots of knockouts.
There will.
It's figuring out which ones.
Potentially not. But either way, at the end of the day, what you want are guys who are people, fighters.
Who finish early.
There's two female fights on this, so I shouldn't have said guys. But fighters that are going to finish early in their fights. So here's my first DraftKings team right here. Actually, I found this week it was a little bit easier to get who you want because it doesn't seem as stacked in terms of between DraftKings and Kountermove. Maybe DraftKings has changed their pricing up a little bit.
Okay,
or there's not as many fights that are complete domination.
So with DraftKings?
I've got DraftKings. I've got Michael Chiesa, Timothy Johnson. Why? Because he's 8,700. All of his wins come by finish. And you need somebody cheap on your team to get all of the rest of the people that you want. Then I've got Justin Lazy Bones Jones. I just thought he looked, in terms of his debut in the UFC and Ron Stallings' debut in the UFC, I think Lazy Bones Jones looks like a much better fighter moving forward in the organization. I'm looking for him to shine in the second fight of his UFC tenure. And I got Chad Mendes, not because I think he's going to get finished. He potentially could get a finish. But if it goes 5 rounds, Chad Mendes is going to put in a lot of work. He's going to get a lot of significant strikes, probably going to get a lot of takedowns or whatever it is. He's going to stay active. He's going to stay active. It was 11-3, but I think the price was worth it, and I went with Robbie Peralta because I think Clay Guida is shot.
Wow.
I know you disagree with me,
I do.
But let's hear your DraftKings team.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll start with the DraftKings. Michael Chiesa, I think we're both on the same page.
Yep.
Not only for the price, $11,000. Yes, I get that he's expensive,
yep.
but you need this guy. I think he gets the finish, if not in the first round, in the second round. So he's going to be important to me. Second, I had to go with my boy, Shamil Abdurakhimov. I think I said it right. Abdurakhimov. I know you disagree with this, but a little tidbit of information for you. Timothy Johnson works not only a full-time job, he works 2 full-time jobs. And
the guy's a hard worker.
He's part of the Armored Guard Reserve in North Dakota. He says, how often do you train? Well, whenever I get downtime. One of his jobs, he's a full-time truck driver. You get lots of workouts sitting in a truck all day, Paul. So Timothy Johnson.
That's why he's going to come in at 265 pounds, whereas Shamil is going to be coming in at 230, 235.
Yeah, but my Dagestani fighter, he's probably got lots of investors backing him up who are paying for him to train all day. Your guy's getting knocked out, and that's why it's very important for me to have Abdurakhimov.
It's heavyweights. This could go either way.
It could, and that's why you want one of them on your team at the very least, because if someone's getting knocked out, I want him. So Chiesa, Abdurakhimov. I went Iaquinta, $9,500. I went back and forth on this one because I don't think he finishes George Masvidal, and you typically want fights that are going to be finishes. So it's like, okay, well, I want George Masvidal because maybe he submits him. It was a lot of back and forth. But at the end of the day, it was like Iaquinta is more of a volume puncher, and he's crisp. And if George Masvidal engages him for 3 rounds, and they just throw hands for the 3 rounds, maybe I can score some good points there for $9,500. Then Carlos Diego Ferreira, $9,300. I think he gets the finish on Dustin Poirier. I really do. He was good price, and anything can happen. This is MMA. No one's got to. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me that's telling me exactly what's happening.
It's really the kind of.
But what I am feeling on this one.
What we're thinking is like we almost have to get into the mind of Poirier. Is he like if he gets knocked out by Conor McGregor, the guy sitting right behind you right there. After that fight, you go, oh man, well, I'm screwed. I'm screwed at featherweight. I've got to move up to lightweight. Or is it like, it took a lot out of me to go cut to 145. I think I'm going to be better at this division. So it's one of those situations, but I understand why you think Poirier leaves a lot of openings. It's whether Ferreira comes out aggressive or not.
Listen, like you said, Poirier leaves a ton of openings. And two things I found interesting. One, recent pictures of American Top Team with Poirier training. They're not the best guys in American Top Team. It doesn't really seem like he's training with the creme de la creme. There was a lot of just up-and-comers. And the other thing to me is I remember watching an American Top Team kind of like a feature film a little while ago, and he was training with Will Brooks, who's the Bellator 155-pound champ, 155-pounder. And they said, okay, Poirier, going first round with Brooks. And he told them, he goes, no, man, I don't want to go with Brooks first round. Brooks is too big for me. I don't want to go Brooks. He goes, I can go Brooks in the third round when he's tired and I'm not as tired because I'm quicker than him. But he was flat out admitting, I'm too small for 155. Brooks will toss me around. Brooks he'll own me. Yeah. If I get him 12 minutes into the workout, then I've got a chance. Well, that's not going to bode well for you when you're going to fight 55ers. You make a great point. Carlos Diego Ferreira, not the biggest 55er. No. So Poirier could go through here and he could beat him. But his future at 55 is very doubtful. He's going to get exposed at some point, and I'm simply betting the fact that he'll get exposed this time.
There you go.
So Carlos Diego Ferreira, $9,300. If he gets the finish, boom. And I didn't actually want to go Liz Carmouche. I don't really know why I went Liz Carmouche. $9,600. She wasn't even all that cheap either. But it is a case of like, maybe she gets I don't know. To be honest, I knew she was going to get takedowns, but that doesn't score a whole lot. If she just holds her down, that's not going to score a whole lot. A simple win, not going to score a whole lot. Did she go for submission attempts? That is literally my saving grace. Maybe that's the one I reconfigure, but I'm very comfortable with Chiesa, Abdurakhimov, Iaquinta, Ferreira, that last slot. I've got some money to play around with.
And Kountermove, I've got Jorge Masvidal, 4,700.
He was very cheap, yeah.
It was either him or Iaquinta. You can be on either side of the fence, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
And 4,700, and I think Iaquinta is like 4,900 on Kountermove. So pretty close, but I lean towards Masvidal, and he has the potential to get a submission, as we've seen in Iaquinta's past. So yeah, give me him. Obviously, Michael Chiesa, don't really have to say much more than that. Justin Lazy Bones Jones, because I'm just all over this guy. I've got him in the company office pool. I've got him on my DraftKings. Got him on my Kountermove.
I dig it.
I like Justin Lazy Bones Jones here. I liked what he did in a tough situation against Corey 25-7 or 25-8. Sorry, 25-8 Anderson in his UFC debut at 205. Chad Mendes again, 5,700, a little bit expensive, but I thought the juice is worth the squeeze. And Robbie Problems Peralta, 4,500 again, because I think Clay Guida
it's hard to score points off your
is
back ball.
Shot. But I think he could. I don't know, man. We'll see. It could be Clay's coming back, or it could be Clay. This is kind of the end of the road. If he loses to Peralta, it's probably not much left for him in the tank, or at least at the UFC level.
Fair enough. My Kountermove team, similar to my DraftKings team, although a little bit props going your way. My most expensive person, Abdurakhimov, once again, $5,400. Honestly, I truthfully feel like he's going to finish Timothy Johnson. I'm looking for finishes. This is one that I see as being a finish, so I had to go with Shamil Abdurakhimov. Michael Chiesa, again, same thing. Iaquinta, we talked about it. You got Iaquinta. Carlos Diego Ferreira. So that team is essentially the same as my DraftKings team. Only this time I went Justin Lazy Bones Jones. Went for the, I know.
Guy.
For $4,800, he was pretty cheap. He's pretty cheap, and not only that is that we see with Ron Stallings, not only did he just get opened up by that cut, but he was getting banged up on the feet. He's just not really a striker. As we mentioned in the straight breakdown, the key for him is to secure takedowns and go for a submission. But in terms of DraftKings, I need a guy that's going to lose in the first round, and he could theoretically get knocked out again, or that same cut opens up. Or he's feeling the blood and thinks, geez, this is not for me, man. There's a lot that can happen here. Justin Jones looked confident at the very least against Corey Anderson. So am I betting him straight up in my money line? No. Am I going to put him on my Kountermove team for $4,800? Why not, right?
Now you're speaking my language. All right, we're just about out of time, but before we go, we got to give you our picks of the week. So, Cody, why don't you get us started with your pick of the week for the full card of UFC Fairfax?
Abdurakhimov. At minus 240, I can see it's a little bit thick because a lot of people are looking, well, Timothy Johnson, and he's a power puncher, and, Shamil, I don't really know a whole lot about him, but just watch the tape on it. It really is the matter of one guy has very little movement, the other guy has an extreme amount of movement. We've seen him. He's got a lot of fights. He's been on the ground. He's been standing. He's been a master of sport. He's experienced all these things. Timothy Johnson is a guy that, self-admittedly, I got into the sport to help out some of my other buddies who were in the sport who needed a body. Mm-hmm. I think Abdurakhimov finishes him, but even if he doesn't, I got him here. So minus 240, sign me up for the Russian.
And let's be honest, we don't even have to think too long about which guy I'm going with. Justin Lazy
really?
Bones Jones.
You realize this is no relation to John Jones.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Parlay busted. No.
Obviously, I know that. Minus 130, the price is just too good. As I said many, many times here, I was actually impressed with how he reacted in a very, very bad situation against Corey Anderson. And Corey Anderson, we've talked about it before on this podcast.
He's very good.
He's a very, very good prospect. Obviously a tough winner. But then on top of that, he's just, the guy's a specimen.
Yeah.
The guy, and, that fight's at 205. Now he's moving back down to 185. I think he's going to be considerably bigger than Ron Stallings at this weight class. And the price is actually getting a little bit better for me. Earlier in the week, I believe it was like minus 150. And now at minus 130, I like it even more. But that's all the time we have for now. This week, make sure you check out Cody. Cody's moving up in the world. He was on
Never leave you, Paul.
MMA Meltdown with Gabriel Morency, so you can find that on the Fight Network's YouTube page or watch it on Fight Network. And but yeah, definitely a good one. I was listening in from the audio board, and Cody gives you even further analysis on UFC Fight Night Fairfax, and talks about Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. So definitely check that out. But that's all the time we have for now. Want to give a little bit of a thank you to a guy who spends a lot of time here.
Unsung hero.
All the time. Come on out, Chase. We want to give Chase a little bit of...
Chase is the
Chase
board
does
up,
all
for those who don't know Chase.
All of the dirty work behind the glass here. There he is. There he is. Gives you the money sign.
Money.
Chase is the man. He spends a lot of late hours here for us. He's missed soccer and other engagements and stuff that he's had to do in the past because of us clowns speaking late nights here at the Fight Network studios. So we definitely appreciate that. But that's all the time we have for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. So for Cody Saftik, Chase Kaiser, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.